Good afternoon, Mr. Jones.
It's great to actually talk to you for a little bit during the game. Oh, wait, we were just waiting.
Waiting out the storm.
I mean, look, this is the third time that this has happened, at least on my broadcast side. Ohio State 2000, the 2017 game with Michigan State in this. What do you think James, as a head coach, learned from an unprecedented situation in 2017 that paid off on Saturday?
Well, he said it. They had a plan because the weather was in the forecast. The stormy weather was in the forecast. They had lined up food, which you may know what they had. We're not sure what they had, but they had food. And I think the fact that they adjusted on the fly, set up places to sit in their tunnel, in the visiting team's tunnel at Mountaineer Field. And I just think, I was talking to several of the players, but I remember Nick Singleton saying that, he was doing a lot of stretching and, guys were just listening to their headphones, listening to music, that kind of thing. I think James Franklin, I'm trying to think, is if he and Terry Smith, I think, are the only staff members, coaches left from 2017. I'm sure they learned a lot, and I'm sure they took notes after that. And obviously, Penn State handled the delay better than West Virginia because they came out in the second half and scored on that opening drive, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of the game.
Right, because I know in the other games I've done, after a delay, the team that scored first has always won. And I mentioned that. I mentioned that on the broadcast, that it was important which team could get out of the gate. Overall, what did you like about Penn State's performance that sets a foundation?
Oh, there's a lot to like. I mean, my goodness. Let me see where I could start. Drew Aller, I thought, looked freer and looser than he did most of last season. I think Trey Wallace played like he said he was and like a lot of people said he would. I think Amari Evans making that contested deep catch. I like the fact that Penn State was aggressive at the end of the first half and scored a touchdown with 6 seconds left in the half. I like the fact that Nick Singleton had 2 40-yard runs when he didn't have any last year. I like the way the offensive line blocked and protected Drew Aller and Bo Prabula. Defensively, I love how they stopped the run. And there's not one player, there's not 2 players who you could say he's the main reason. I love the fact that they shut down West Virginia's running game because West Virginia is so good at running the football. And then KJ Winston and Jalen Reed, they showed everybody the type of safeties that they're going to be this season.
So now we flip it to the other side. On James Franklin's cleanup list, what does it you want his football team to clean up to be better?
Oh boy, let me think.
I'll start with the penalties.
Penalties, yeah. Penalties is number one. Yeah, they've got to. I mean, in a close game, that many penalties could decide the outcome. That's first and foremost. They need to kick the ball better across the board. We weren't sure way up high, and I don't know how you felt, like if Gabe Nwosu was trying to hit short kickoffs or he just wasn't hitting them right. It was hard to tell. I know Riley Thompson, can punt better, and Xander Sahadak was, perfect on extra points, but he missed that long field goal. So yeah, I think they can. Those are the 2 things in my mind that they can do better. 2 things that stick out.
Yeah, because it's not just the penalties. A penalty happens during a play. I got it. Mm-hmm. It's the pre-snap stuff where they jumped offside, and they had that one out of bounds play where Abdul Carter got hit. I mean, that's the part that I think any coach sits back because those are the self-inflicted ones. The other ones just happen.
Yeah. I think Abdul Carter was frustrated because, again, his first game at defensive end, he was often being double-teamed. He was being held at times, which goes with the territory. This isn't complaining about officials or anything like that. It goes with the territory. They're not going to get every holding call. And I just think he got frustrated, and I think that's probably why he popped the guy out of bounds. Because, I mean, the game was decided more or less. And, but again, in a close game, that could be a big, big penalty.
Rich, they had 4 plays of 40 yards or better in the game. What kind of job in play calling did Andy Koltonicki do to set up the big play opportunities?
I wish I was smarter than most when it comes to X's and O's. So I'll try to say this in layman's terms. I don't recall a wide receiver running as open as Trey Wallace did on that touchdown pass, that crossing pattern last year. I don't remember. Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't, in my head, I don't remember seeing that last year. So that's one. 2, Nick Singleton's 2 40-yard runs is a very, very encouraging sign, not only for him, but for the running game and the offense. And I know the touchdown run early in the third quarter, there was motion, and the motion took a linebacker with, I can't remember who was in motion, but regardless, it took one of those linebackers out of the box. And as soon as Nick made that one cut, somebody got a hand on him, and that was it. And he was gone. And so I think what Andy does, he puts defenses on their heels. It's clear. And he does it in a lot of different ways. We haven't seen half the things he's going to be doing, right. I'm sure. Some of the things that we've seen on video that he did at Kansas. I think as a first game, a few people picked West Virginia or thought it was going to be a close game because it was his first game as offensive coordinator and Tom Allen's first game as defensive coordinator. And I was thinking the same thing before James Franklin said yesterday. I thought the defense was sort of overlooked, and that's natural. I mean, it happens. But I think, talk about a smashing debut. I think both Andy and Tom had smashing debuts in their first games at Penn State as coordinators. Yeah,
that defense, West Virginia last year, and this is, again, 4 of the 5 offensive linemen back, Taylor the tight ends back, Fox, Clement, Gallagher back as wide receivers, Donaldson, White back as running backs, and Green at quarterback. I mean, that's an experienced group. So they averaged 229 yards rushing per game last year. They got 85 in this game.
Yeah. I mean, it was really impressive. And I'm going to shout out the D tackles.
Yes.
Because I thought they played very, very well. And the linebackers, but really the D tackles, I'm not going to name all 5 or 6, but the point is they played really, really well against a veteran offensive line, a good offensive line, and a really, really good running game. And that's very encouraging for the rest of the season.
Yeah. And then there's Drew Aller. Did you get the sense that in being now a second-year starter, that the game slowed down for him after the first series and a half?
I just think he looked more decisive. He looked freer. He looked more relaxed, more comfortable. Whether the game significantly slowed down for him or not, whatever the reason was, whether it was a different offensive coordinator, we have to ask him. I just think he looked in complete command throughout the game. And I know a lot of people talk about the back shoulder pass, the touchdown pass to Wallace at the end of the half. That sideline pass, I'm trying to think, was it on that drive for like 17 or 18 yards to Wallace?
Yeah.
And he was covered closely? Yeah. There aren't many quarterbacks in this country who can make that throw.
Right. Saw him make a lot of back shoulders last year in practice, but not in games. The seed in the game was really a big plus for them moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, like Steve, like they 457 yards, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Tyler Warren was almost an afterthought,
right?
And he's going to be productive.
Right.
That they're, I mean, you can only the ball. Only so many people can touch the ball. The same thing, with the wide receivers. Julian Fleming is going to be a part of this offense,
no doubt,
in a receiving way. He did a terrific job blocking.
Yeah.
So, I think it was a great start for Penn State, a very promising start.
Well, there's the other part too. Is you look at the stats on Katron Allen and go, boy, they got to get him going. But if you're there and you're watching the game, his blitz pickup was outstanding.
Nick,
I mean, he was a big reason some of those plays happened.
He did a great job, and I know Nick did. There was one play in the first half that Nick picked up a linebacker and just stood him up.
Yes.
And those two guys, and then they both caught a pass, Katron for a touchdown. James Franklin and Jaywan Sider have talked about the two of them becoming complete backs, and that was on display Saturday.
All right, so now they go forward from here, and they've got Bowling Green this week. Is this more now of a test of maturity of the team, that you want to get better and you can't play down to anybody?
It is. I would agree with you on that. Let's see how you react to an impressive road win over a pretty good team.
Yeah.
You have two, Bowling Green from the Mid-American, by Kent State from the Mid-American. Yes, this is going to test their focus, their maturity, their discipline these next 3 weeks. Even the bye week, and really they should be 5-0 before they make that trip to Los Angeles to play USC on October 12th.
Will you be able? I'm going to guess you're going to come in Saturday morning because you want to watch Peacock Friday night, and you're not rooting for the Philadelphia team.
That would be correct.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Beginning last year, I don't come up anymore on Friday nights.
Yeah.
So, but I'm hoping the Green Bay Packers run the football a lot, and the game ends pretty quickly, and it ends up with a green and gold victory.
What do you think about, now I know this is not the Packers' home game, it's Philadelphia's home game. What do you think about the overseas games that the NFL plays? I'm with you.
I hate it. I especially what I read this morning, Steve, where the NFL is telling the players to stick to their hotels for safety reasons.
Right.
So what are they telling the fans who are making the trip there? I don't understand it. I don't. Somebody who knows marketing better than me, which is a lot of people, is going to have to explain that to me, but I don't like it one bit. You could grow the game. Yeah, you could grow the game by showing the games on American soil around the world. Maybe if you play one game in Europe, I get, but I don't get this one at all. I just don't understand it. I'm not smart enough to understand it, I guess.
No, I don't feel like I am either, because, and here's my issue with it. The only reason that the game is as popular as it is are the fans in this country.
No question.
And in this case, Green Bay's not the one losing a home game. Philadelphia is. Well, haven't the Philadelphia fans, like Green Bay fans, been loyal to a fault? Great season, bad season. Aren't they the ones that are supposed to get rewarded with an extra game, an extra opportunity to see the team play, as opposed to, we're going to Brazil? I mean, that's the part that makes no sense to me. We have to stop backhanding people in this part of the world because we want to promote something in another part of the world. That's why they created the preseason.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, like why take a regular season home game away from Eagles fans who are as loyal as any in the NFL, and why not just send a preseason game to Brazil? That's a great point, Steve. And you know, it just I don't understand it. I really, really don't understand it, especially when, like, God forbid something happens to one of the players, one of the coaches, one of the support staff, or one of the fans, because they're obviously worried about the safety of these people in Brazil. I mean, I don't understand it at all.
Well, I always appreciate you and understand you, so that's good enough for me. Hey, always a pleasure, Rich. Thanks for all the time today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, as always. I'll see you Saturday.
You bet. As always, it's great to be here. I hope you guys are doing well on this post-holiday Tuesday.
Yes, exactly. So let's get to the Arthur Smith Bowl. And right out of the gate, he gets to face a defense he knows very well. And the Steelers have the Falcons. Your thoughts on the Arthur Smith Bowl?
It's a great marketing ploy. I know that. I don't know how much love there was left for Arthur Smith in Atlanta. You didn't get a sense that the players were really behind him. And the job may have been, I don't want to say too much, but I don't, I'm not there with them. I don't know exactly how they would have taken to what he was trying to do or what he was teaching them. But what I know is it seemed to be a train wreck offensively. I always thought it was interesting that he went from one train wreck to another with the hopes of, revitalizing the one now in Pittsburgh. But maybe this group fits better with the things that he was trying to do, but nobody was really sure what he was trying to do in Atlanta. So maybe the game passed him by. Maybe the things that he was trying to do aren't going to be as successful as the success that he had in Tennessee. But I do think Atlanta as a whole probably is not real big on anything Arthur Smith related. And I think I would think the veteran players who were on that defense would be about ready to, want to make a play or two and let Smith know about it. So more the concern that I would have with Atlanta is what they've done offensively to build themselves back up. I think Kirk Cousins is a very solid NFL quarterback. I understand he's not the most popular, not the chart-topping type of guy, but the bottom line is he's far better than anybody that Pittsburgh has had over the last couple of years, and he's a lot better than what Arthur Smith had in Atlanta. And Arthur Smith doesn't have the benefit, again, of having the better of the two quarterbacks in this game. So he's going to have to figure out a way to put up points against a defense that would love to shut him down in many ways, the way that players and fans thought he shut Atlanta down last year. And have to compete, I think, step for step with Cousins and what they're going to be able to do offensively now with maybe a system that's a little bit better fit for the personnel that they have. So it's a tough opening game for the Steelers, and to throw the new offensive coordinator against his former team, going from one bad offense to another. There's a lot of eyeballs are going to be on this one. I'm not getting a great feeling about it, but we'll see. Obviously, it's week one. You never quite know what the team is in week one. You don't really have a good sense of that in the NFL until week 2 or 3 nowadays anyway. So maybe there's something there, but I don't know. I just get the sense this is going to be a slow starting year for the Steelers offensively yet again. I have faith in their ability to put things together as the year goes, but they're going to need reps. They lost Isaac Seumalo for a couple games, it sounds like. That's 3 starters on the Steelers offensive line making their first NFL start. 2 of them are rookies. One of them didn't play at all last year. So it's I don't know. This is tough. Smith's got a pretty big assignment in front of him, and this isn't even going to be the biggest assignment he faces this year. So you hope you hope he's got something on them that on the Falcons that will work. But I don't know. It's going to be a tough one, I think.
On the Steeler defense, going in, what's your impression as to what you think you're going to like? And also, what's your impression about the Steelers defense where going in you think you might not like?
You always like their ability to get off the edge and make plays, and a lot of that is set up on their ability inside to create chaos. They fill gaps. Typically, they fill gaps well. They can occupy blockers that help fill in their edge, and with that, depending on how much wear and tear TJ Watt has, I think is a concern. Not that we have any particular reason to think that, but the guy has played, pretty much every snap he's been able to play for the last, it feels like 10 years now. He's going to have to slow down eventually. I've had this conversation with a bunch of people, and this is why I feel in a field of multiple worthy recipients of the NFL Defensive Player of the Year last year, TJ Watt probably would have been my vote because of the amount of times the Steelers would put him at the wide 9 technique, so well outside of a tight end, and have him be able to make up that ground and get to the quarterback and disrupt the play. Basically, it forces an offense to have to stretch out if you want to put a body on him. And Tomlin and defensive coordinator Terrell Austin had no problem betting on Watt in that situation. He's had to run a long way. He's had to blast off the line. All these things wear your body down over time. I'm not saying it's an immediate thing, but if he loses even a microsecond off of his burst, his ability to get off the ball and to get upfield the way he does, they're not going to be effective doing that. And that's a huge part of why their defense has been successful over the last couple of years. So if Watt can continue to do that, that's going to their pass rush obviously is predicated off of that. He's maybe the best pass rusher in the game over the last 5 years. You will see some great things out of that. You'll see him play some great defensive football, and they can scheme advantages because of his presence. And Alex Highsmith is a very good player as well. He's developed kind of a craftiness to him. He's got an array of pass rushing moves now. Obviously not the athlete that Watt is, but he can land. He can get to the quarterback. If they're able to occupy the A and the B gap, their pass rush will again be higher level in comparison to the rest of the NFL. And I think that's something we talk about but don't really fully explore. The talent that they have there, that now they're building, again, Keanu Benton playing along with a veteran like Cam Hayward, that's going to create better things. They've gotten a lot more athletic in their inside linebackers now. Patrick Queen is definitely a step up over what they had last year. It's unfortunate that they didn't, quite get to play with everything that they had last year, but Queen will be a very solid player for them, if not a spectacular one. That's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Down part, I'll add Joey Porter in there another season, kind of learning his position, learning his craft. Maybe the refs put the flags away for him a little bit. He can get away with a little bit more, which would definitely help the team. I think he led the NFL, led cornerbacks in the NFL with penalties last season. If he can tone that down to a pretty good amount this season, you're going to see one of the better cornerbacks in the league. That'll be fun to watch. What they're doing elsewhere, I think, is a problem. But you put all that together, it seems like a lesser important problem. They've got a lot of good pieces defensively. They'll have good safety play. Minka Fitzpatrick is playing 17 games. Their entire defense will be in line. They'll be able to make plays on the ball, both in the deep secondary as well as around the line of scrimmage. And they should be able to impact what's probably going to be a pretty mediocre offense. They can get away with a little bit more offensively, knowing their defense is pretty stand-up and explosive. They can make plays on the ball when it's in the air and when the quarterback has it. So that's really what a modern defense today is. I think they have that ability. That's certainly what they've built their team to do this year. It should be a good unit. I think they'll be a solid defensive team yet again. A lot of it, and perhaps an uncomfortable amount for today's NFL, though, is going to have to rest on their ability to play defense offensively. They're going to have to get to the ball, take the ball away, and sack the quarterback. If they can't do that, they're going to struggle with this offense.
So now let's flip it to the other side. Same question. Something that going in you're not so sure you like, and some stuff that you think going in you're going to like.
I thought I was going to like the offensive line, and I still want to. Siamala's absence, though, is going to be noticeable pretty quickly. I felt he was one of the more underrated players in the league last year. Played very well at times. Not somebody they're just going to be able to replace. I would assume it's Spencer Anderson that's going to get the nod there. You're going to take a step down, and that's playing alongside Dan Moore at left tackle, who's I assume is going to win the left tackle job after camp, which I think is a bit of an upset. I don't know if this was the ideal situation for the Steelers to not have either Broderick Jones or Troy Fatanu playing left tackle, and if not having both of them starting, not the situation we would have expected. So if we're framing this question back in like March, April, May, I would have thought the offensive line would have been a little bit more of a point of excitement. You could get behind them, but at the same time, I do feel you'll have a boost of athleticism within that group. It's something that Arthur Smith can plan around, to have that ability to play the short game, play quick game with athletic linemen that can shoot off the line, get the blocks at the second level. They have a group that can do that. So I feel like we can see explosive plays on higher percentage passes than perhaps we've seen the last couple of years from a team that's struggled to do that. They didn't play RPO as well as we thought they would. They didn't play quick game as well as we thought they would. They did a lot of it. They just didn't really explode. This is one of the worst explosive offenses in the game over the last couple of years. I'm not blaming the offensive line for that, but I do think they have the athleticism up front to set stuff up for guys. They can maybe take a 2-yard gain and turn it into 7 or 8. You do that a couple times on a drive, that's points instead of a punt. That's a touchdown instead of a field goal. So that part, I think there is some room for optimism. I'm just not sure how well that's going to click now without Siamalu. The biggest point of contention for me has been and will continue to be the wide receiver position. Now it's going to go down in Yinzer lore forever. Did they actively plan, not just hope for, but plan to get Brandon Ayuk? Now that that's not happening, there's a Brandon Ayuk-sized hole in their salary cap.
Yep.
They have draft picks. They have a lot of good young talent coming in. They traded Deontay Johnson away for, at best, a mediocre cornerback who's going to start for them, and nothing else, really. The move seemed to suggest we're removing ourselves from Deontay Johnson because we're going to find somebody that's worth more of the money that we have to pay receivers nowadays. They're not paying anybody that. If you're going to try to sell me on Van Jefferson as a Deontay Johnson replacement, I'm not buying it. And everything looks like they really actively wanted to find a 1A type of receiver. And whether they didn't go hard enough for whatever reason, it didn't happen, and they don't have it. So this is a receivers league. Teams have 2, if not 3 guys that can produce. We're not sure if the Steelers have 1. So that's going to be a problem. You can't tell me otherwise, and you can't tell me that as much as I enjoy Darnell Washington, if he's your second tight end, he's not a guy that's getting 4 targets a game. Pat Freiermuth is going to have to get 6-7 targets a game. Does that make your offense better? George Pickens doesn't play a position in which he's gotten 7-8 targets a game. Are they going to force that to him, or is this a team that's going to give 12 receivers 4 targets a game? That might be the case. I'm not sure if that is Arthur Smith's plan, if that's what they've always intended to do. It just doesn't seem like it to me. So I think they're left without a receiver. Maybe they're not quite done yet. But I have been saying the entire offseason at some point they're going to bring another one in, but they never did. So I don't know what production they expect to get from the receiver group that's in Pittsburgh. I mean, between your wide receivers, your tight ends, and your running backs, there's some explosive playmaking ability in there, but every team in the league has what the Steelers have. So I don't know if they're difference makers at that position. And I don't think offenses move all that well if you don't have explosive playmakers anymore. So I think they're going to struggle for that. I think they're going to have to play completion ball again. I think they're going to have to play possession ball. And I don't know how well that works in today's NFL. You're asking a lot of your defense, but it seems like that's what they're gearing up to do this year.
Yeah. I saw Pat Frymuth, in fact, was at the Penn State West Virginia game on Saturday on the sideline. I know this is ground we have covered before, but I wanted to at least revisit it because it fits the moment, and that's the Brazil game coming up on Friday. And your thought on the NFL playing so many games now out of the country, and my point's always been, and it's the fans of this country that built it.
I think overall, I see why they're doing it, and I think there's a level at the surface that is kind of like, I don't really care. It doesn't make too big of a difference. I can't help but feel with these operations, there's always a step away from, a real negative PR situation. Don't ask me why, but what flashed in my mind this week thinking about it was a game I covered at the Edward Jones Dome.
Yeah.
Rams and Steelers back in 2015. A pregame thing went off, and something happened with the pyrotechnics that they melted a section of the field, and there was a half an hour long delay on it. If you've got the attention of a one game night and you're bumping high school games to the side for this, keep that in mind. You're looking to recruit South America, but you're making sure high school fans across the state have to choose between watching this game or watching the local product. I don't know how good of an idea that is, but the point being, primetime audience, something like that happens. It's a negative thing simply because it gives fodder to people that want to go out and make jokes. It doesn't make your product look very good. Right. And even if your operations people have taken care of all this in 100 different stadiums across the country, it's not the same thing. There's international issues going on within the country now, as it is to a point where Twitter isn't allowed, or they're going to have to do a bunch of stuff to help add to the social media effort. It seems like an awfully expensive risk. I understand marketing. I get wanting to push into different areas. I don't know. I watched a bit of the pre-Olympic flag football competition. I'm not sure this is an international game. I don't. That's just me. I get why they want to establish a future, and to do that, they've got to have an international footprint. They do to some extent. I think there are more connections in Europe than they are in South America. That's even more soccer dominated than Europe is. So I don't know. That's just me. I think they do well within the market that they have. They're going to continue to push it because I guess they want to go to all corners of the earth. There's no point in stopping expanding. Otherwise, they're out of jobs, right? It just seems more that that's the idea here, not this is good for everything. It's just my useless 2 cents on the matter.
Nope, I'm with you. Again, to me, I look at the fans of this country. You are who you are as an organization because of fans here. Why are you taking home games away from the people who built you? I mean, that's where they created the preseason. Use that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a marquee game too. Those are popular teams, and it's early in the season. They're going to want to be a part of that. I think part of the justification is we add another game to the schedule. You're not technically necessarily losing a home game, but or only one team is at least. But I don't think they should take home games away from teams like that. And it, more than anything, is it can't be one game. This has got to be a commitment to several over the next couple of years. And back in the day, the whole thing was, you know, we're going to London because we're trying to leverage Los Angeles into building a stadium so we can move teams there instead of London. Well, that leverage is gone now. What are you going to do? You're going to put it in Sao Paulo? I mean, a team isn't moving there. What market do you expect to get on one game a year? That the American press is talking a lot like you and I are right now. I don't think that they're going to be real moved by this game that they don't understand. It doesn't make sense to them. It's not played at all like the game that they're used to watching. That's a significant investment, and I don't see that the juice is worth the squeeze in this particular instance. But I do think when you have a mandate to expand for expansion's sake, this is what you're going to do. And when I say expand, I don't mean move a team anywhere. I mean reach into a different market, a different audience. It's not as if Brazilians have not been able to watch NFL football. I think it's been available to them for however long. Mm-hmm. They're just not going to be all that interested in it, you know. And I think we'll see that come Friday with the local reaction to it all.
My friend, always a pleasure. Happy football season.
Absolutely. Happy football season to you guys as well. Thanks for having me.